Did you know that in Maxine Waters' district, 14.5% of the population is living beneath the poverty line? That's about 25% higher than the rate in California and about 20% higher than the rate in the United States. Not only that, but 21% of children under the age of 18 are impoverished in her district. But she's out here leading the committee to close the LGBTQ wealth gap. Now, if you've been following this channel since Biden's been in office, me stating that Biden has done absolutely nothing for the Black community by way of meaningful legislation since he's been in office is not a surprising statement at all, because I've proven that over and over and over again. And it's also no surprise for me to say that the Congressional Black Caucus does absolutely nothing for Black Americans by way of ensuring that legislation is passed that meet the specific needs of the Black community exclusively. But even with understanding all of this, it still never ceases to amaze me the lengths that the Biden administration and the Congressional Black Caucus will go to make it a point to prioritize other groups over Black Americans. And let me tell you something. When I came across this one, I fell out of my seat. Because now the Congressional Black Caucus, being spearheaded by Maxine Waters, is leading the committee to close the LGBTQ wealth gap. Or to be more specific, there's no pride in prejudice, eliminating barriers to full economic inclusion for the LGBTQ plus community. Forget about reparations in H.R. 40. Forget about the black-white wealth gap created by 400 years of political and economic state-sanctioned violence. Forget about the George Floyd bill. Forget about all that stuff, because we got to make sure that we close this LGBTQ wealth gap. Take it away, Joyce Beatty.
I now recognize myself for 4 minutes to give an opening statement. Good afternoon, and I am pleased to convene the Subcommittee on Diversity and Inclusion for a hybrid hearing entitled, "There is no pride in prejudice, eliminating barriers to full economic inclusion for the LGBTQ plus community." In 27 states, there are no explicit statewide laws protecting people from discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity in employment, housing, and public accommodations. At the federal level, there are no fair housing or credit protections based on expressly sexual orientation or gender identity. This puts many LGBTQ plus individuals at risk, youth at risk, or at experiencing chronic homelessness, unemployment, or being unbanked. We are a nation of many colors, a rainbow, if you will, and today we will explore the LGBT community and what it faces, systemic barriers to financial inclusion and employment, simply because of who we are.
Who is we? Can somebody please explain that to me? I don't know what she's talking about. We? You see, you will never see other non-Black congressional members go this hard for Black Americans on any piece of legislation that exclusively benefits us the way the Congressional Black Caucus consistently goes hard for everybody else.
Today, we know it has been documented by a recent Gallup poll of 2021 that 18 million adults are self-identified as LGBTQ individuals. These are our family members, our colleagues, our friends. And every day, these individuals face bigotry, discrimination, especially when it comes to securing safe and stable housing. I joined with my colleagues to pass H.R. 5, the Equality Act, that would prohibit discrimination based on sex, sexual orientation, and gender identity in any area, specifically including unemployment and housing. This bill is currently pending in the Senate.
But H.R. 40 can't even get a floor vote in the House of Representatives that is majority Democrat controlled. Furthermore, of the 18 million individuals who identify as being LGBTQ, how many of them are actually Black? Don't let that go over your head, because that is very important to know, because I'm willing to bet you that if you separate the white LGBTQ from the black LGBTQ, you'll see that the black LGBTQ have it significantly harder, as is the case for any and every racial disparity between blacks and whites. Notice how nobody ever talks about that, the same way that when it comes to feminism, no one ever seriously discusses the racial disparities between black women and white women. Now, these disparities are brought up occasionally, but not consistently. And being inconsistent is the equivalent of not saying anything at all. Now, let's hear what the leader of this committee, Maxine Waters, has to say.
Thank you so much. It now gives me the great honor to recognize the chairwoman of the full committee for 1 minute, the Honorable Congresswoman Maxine Waters.
Thank you so very much for holding this important hearing, Chair Beatty. The fight for LGBTQ plus rights is far from over. While same-sex marriage and other milestones of LGBTQ plus equality have become a reality within the last 10 years, this community still faces discriminatory barriers and financial burdens. For example, data show that individuals within the LGBTQ community often have more trouble finding affordable and safe and equitable housing. Across America, an estimated 20 to 40% of homeless youth identify as LGBTQ plus. Additionally, the LGBTQ plus community face difficulties in accessing employment opportunities and being positively included in workplace environments. Compared to other heterosexual and cisgender counterparts, I'm proud that this committee is ensuring that these kinds of disparate impacts are not tolerated. Thank you again, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Did you know that in Maxine Waters' district, 14.5% of the population is living beneath the poverty line? That's about 25% higher than the rate in California and about 20% higher than the rate in the United States. Not only that, but 21% of children under the age of 18 are impoverished in her district. But she's out here leading the committee to close the LGBTQ wealth gap. At this stage in the game, brothers and sisters, we are truly destroying ourselves politically at this point. Now, I understand the influences of mainstream media and all of that, but my God, way too many of us are so willing to sell out the entire group for trinkets. And with that being said, in comes Executive Director of the National Black Justice Coalition, David Johns.
Thank you for allowing me this opportunity. My name has been said, is David Johns, and I honor serving as the Executive Director of the National Black Justice Coalition, the nation's most preeminent civil rights organization focused on empowering Black LGBTQ plus and same-gender loving people, families, and communities. If there's one thing I want this subcommittee to hear me say, it's that while the beautifully diverse Black community is burdened by the problems caused by racism, Black people with intersectional identities are often confronted with additional nuanced challenges too often neglected and ignored.
For those who don't know, the National Black Justice Coalition is an LGBTQ organization in the same fashion as the Black Lives Matter organization. Here's how the con works. You see, if they actually name their organizations appropriately, like Black LGBTQ Lives Matter or National Black LGBTQ Justice Coalition, they wouldn't receive the same level of support, especially financially, that they receive now, because they'd be limited to simply the Black LGBTQ experience. And the problem with that is this: if you examine the history of Blacks in America, the struggles, hurdles, and oppression that we faced and continue to face has absolutely nothing to do with sexual preference, but everything to do with simply being Black. With that being said, the well of struggle and oppression concerning the Black LGBTQ experience is a little shallow, to say the least. But when you drop the LGBTQ and simply call your organizations Black Lives Matter or the National Black Justice Coalition, now that same well becomes infinite, with an abundance of history and experiences to pull from, past and present, for you to capitalize on. So when George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor get murdered, you say, hey, Black Lives Matter, and with that comes hundreds of millions of dollars that they don't take and put back into the Black community. No, they take that money and put it into LGBTQ institutions and organizations that predominantly benefit the white LGBTQ community, to which the Black LGBTQ benefits minimally from. Like I said, trinkets. Now, once again, I understand the many factors that come into play for why things are the way that they are concerning the number of people in our community that are so quick to sell their people short. But that doesn't negate the fact that we're still doing this to ourselves. If you watch this video in its entirety, and I'll leave the link in the description for you below, there weren't any Hispanic organizations present. There weren't any AAPI organizations there. There weren't any Native American organizations there. The LGBTQ exists in every community. But the thing is that in all those other communities, they make it a point not to conflate LGBTQ history with the history of their group as a whole. They know how to separate the two. Unlike us, where we conflate the two histories and then everybody else gets to walk off with the benefits of that. This conflation of the two histories is very serious to the degree that it completely undermines the Black community as a whole, and this has to be dealt with, but that's for another video. In the meantime, let's make sure that we put our focus and energy on getting these Democratic shills within the Congressional Black Caucus out of office. That's the main goal, first and foremost. These people have got to go. Maxine Waters has got to go. Joyce Beatty has got to go. Jim Clyburn has got to go. Because these folks in the Congressional Black Caucus are destroying us at every turn. And with all that being said, please make sure you hit the subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you can be notified whenever I release a new video. All social media links will be pinned in the comment section below. Please make sure you text tdhiphop to number 33222. That's tdhiphop to number 33222. That way you'll get a direct text notification whenever I release a new video, but it also serves as a protection plan for myself in case YouTube ever gives this channel the axe. I'll be able to send you a direct link to where you can find me next. And last but not least, for those of you who have a love and appreciation for the work that I put in on this channel, the number one way you can show your support is through Patreon. For only $3 a month, that will help put me in position to take TD Hip Hop Media off of YouTube. Remember, the goal is not to grow big on YouTube, but to grow independent of YouTube. And for those who have issues with joining Patreon, you could also hit the join button that's next to the subscribe button, and that way you can become an official channel member for as little as $3 a month as well. And lastly, if you have not already, please make sure you join the emailing list. There is no way that I can go independent of YouTube if I cannot take the audience with me. And the link to that will be pinned in the comment section as well. Thank you for your time, and until the next video, peace.